Chapter 19. I'm not worthy. Are you worthy? Wendell said with gloomy eyes, You are just a rubbish, you can't even look at your own wife. It's too wrong to follow you in the first place. It's nice to follow me, I can give her what she wants. Charlie's face turned cold, lowered his voice, and said coldly, I'll give you two choices. First, you will kowtow to Claire and apologize. In front of everyone, you will swallow what you have said. Second, I will completely bankrupt your family group if you disagree. Ha 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 ha, are you kidding me? What kind of thing are you that made my group bankrupt? Wendell laughed wildly and looked at Charlie disdainfully, obviously not taking what he said seriously. Are you a mentally retarded daydreamer? What do you use to make my family group go bankrupt? Do you know what the market value of my family group is? Charlie was expressionless, staring at Wendell for a moment with a mentally retarded expression, took out the phone at random, and dialed Stephen Thompson. Within 3 minutes, I want to see Wendell's group go bankrupt and liquidate its assets and debts soar. In 3 minutes, letting a group with a market value of several billion go bankrupt is simply a pipe dream. Wendell stared at Charlie with a stern look and said, D*MN, you're so awesome. Do you think you are the superhero on the internet? After that, Wendell said coldly, Rubbish, don't pretend, I also give you two choices. First, you will kneel down and apologize to me, and then divorce Claire immediately. Second, I will find a few people to completely abolish you from the face of earth. Then, let you see me and Claire sweet with your own eyes, and you can choose yourself. I will give you 1 minute. Charlie looked down at the phone and said, You have 1 minute left, are you sure you can't save it? F***ck off. You still have 30 seconds to think about it. If you don't kneel down, I will make you regret it forever. Wendell said indifferently. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. 5 seconds. The time is up, don't blame me for being cruel, it's you rubbish that you found yourself. Wendell shook his collar, then waved to a few bodyguards, ready to take care of the rubbish first. But at this moment, Wendell's cell phone rang suddenly. Wendell was taken aback, saw his father calling, and quickly picked up. Dad, I'm already at the party, are you here? On the phone, Wendell's father snarled frantically, You rubbish. Who on earth did you offend? What trouble did you cause? Now all shareholders are frantically dumping our group's stock, and our stock has fallen by more than 90%. As he said, his father roared again, the bank suddenly came to ask for debt repayment. All the partners suddenly stopped cooperating with us and stopped settlement. Our capital chain has been broken. There is only one way out for bankruptcy and liquidation. Wendell's face instantly turned pale as he listened to the voice from the phone, and cold sweat dripped from his forehead. Our house is over. Completely over. Wendell wanted to ask again. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a police siren on the opposite side of the mobile phone, followed by the sound of a door breaking, and the voice of the police asking his father to cooperate in the investigation. He was suddenly weak, and the phone fell to the ground, smashing to pieces. As soon as his legs softened, he knelt in front of Charlie. The wind blew, and the body and heart were cold. Those bodyguards, seeing this picture, were all surprised and stopped stepping forward. Wendell was extremely frightened, and asked Charlie in a low voice, Who are you? You did it, right? The crowd onlookers were also extremely surprised. Wendell answered the call and suddenly knelt in front of the son-in-law of the Wilson family. What happened? Charlie looked down at him, bent over slightly, and said in a low voice, I gave you the opportunity to choose, but you didn't choose the right one. I know that I was wrong, I apologize to you, please, let me go. At first I have nothing to do with you, I have never touched her, the Emgrand Group's cooperation is not my help, those words just said are all made up, I beg you, forgive me and my family. Wendell kept kowtow apologizing, he couldn't even dream that a son-in-law of the Wilson family would have such a great energy. One phone call breaking his family. When he raised his head and looked at Charlie's cheek, he only felt that this plain face was more terrifying than a demon. can let his family go bankrupt within a few minutes, such a character is not offended at all. Charlie shook his head and said, "You should be satisfied, because at least I will save you a life. Otherwise, your whole family will be dead." As soon as he said this, Wendell's face paled and his whole body trembled violently. Charlie looked at him and said coldly, "To tell you the truth, I am the superhero on the internet. If you don't want to die, you'd better not talk about my identity, otherwise, you and your father won't survive tomorrow morning." After speaking, Charlie patted Wendell's face and stepped into the hall without paying attention to him. But Wendell completely slumped to the ground, and he did not dare to resist Charlie's extremely humiliating action. Seeing Charlie walked into the hall, Wendell even ran into the hall rolling. Looking around and seeing Claire's figure, he crawled over there, knelt at Claire's feet, kept kowtow, and cried, "Claire, I apologize to you, I shouldn't tell you about it. The rumors, you got the Emgrand Group project, it has nothing to do with me, please, let me go." Claire was taken aback by his actions, and quickly dodged backwards, but ran into a warm embrace. Claire looked back, and it was Charlie who hugged himself. After Charlie came in, he saw Claire. Today's Claire has been carefully dressed, like a blooming star in the crowd, dazzling. Seeing Wendell rushing towards Claire, Charlie took her in his arms first to prevent her from falling, and gave Wendell a fierce look. Wendell was frightened and rolled away on his stomach, for fear of angering Charlie. Claire asked puzzledly, "What happened to him?" Charlie hugged her while whispering, "I'm afraid this person is sick. Leave him alone." Although the two were husband and wife, they didn't have any close contact. Feeling Charlie's warm embrace, Claire's ears were red. She hurriedly broke free from Charlie's arms, and said falteringly, "Well, Chairman Wade of the Emgrand Group should be here, I'm going to see." Chapter 20. When Wendell fled, Harold just came in, followed by his sister Wendy and his fiancée Yunlong White. Beside Yunlong, there was also a young man dressed in luxurious clothes. Looking at his face, he looked a bit like Gerald. When he met Wendell head-on, Harold said hurriedly, "Oh, Brother Wendell. When I just came in, I heard someone say something happened to your family." "Really?" Wendell pushed him away in despair, muttering in his mouth, it's over, it's all over." Harold asked with concern, "Mr. Jones, what's wrong with you?" Wendell shook his head in fear, dare not say anything. He had no doubt that if he said something that he shouldn't say, he might be corpse on the street tomorrow. So Wendell broke away from Harold's hand and ran out in despair. Harold looked at his back and sighed, "I guess this house is really finished. Too soon, right? It was fine yesterday, but today it is bankrupt." Later, when Harold saw Charlie and Claire, he was moved with bad thoughts, and hurriedly greeted Claire. "Claire, I will introduce you to this distinguished guest. This is Gerald's cousin, Fred White, the eldest son of the White family. Brother Fred, this is my cousin, Claire." Harold introduced to Fred with a flattering expression. As soon as Fred came in, his eyes were tightly focused on Claire. Hearing the words, he quickly stretched out his hand and said, "Hello, Claire. I have heard about the beauty of the daughter of the Wilson family a long time ago. Seeing it today, it really deserves its reputation." A trace of dissatisfaction flashed in Charlie's eyes. There was no way for his wife to be beautiful, and the flies around her would be annoying to death after catching one after another. So he stretched out his hand first, shook hands with Fred, and said coldly, "Hello, I am Claire's husband." "You?" Fred looked up and down at Charlie, his disdain was overwhelming, and he withdrew his hand before he said indifferently, "I didn't expect Claire to be married. It's really a flower on the cow dung." Wendy quickly explained on the side, "Brother Fred, this rubbish is imported into our Wilson family. He has no job and no ability." After finishing speaking, she deliberately winked at Fred and said, "Brother Fred, after I marry Gerald, we will be considered as a family, and we must have more contact by then." Fred naturally knew what she meant. This was to encourage him to pursue Claire. Then he smiled and said, "Miss Claire is as beautiful as an immortal. If I can communicate more, I can't ask for it." At this moment, Charlie also saw his mother-in-law Elaine and father-in-law Jacob approaching. After Elaine walked over, he hurriedly said to Claire, "Claire, have you heard about it? Jones' family is bankrupt." "Who?" Claire asked in surprise. "When did it happen?" "Just now." Elaine sighed. "I thought you would divorce Charlie in the future, and you can be with Wendell, but now it's nothing to watch." Charlie was very depressed. Is this mother-in-law a fool? Don't know that the current son-in-law is the real son-in-law? After seeing Elaine, Fred hurried over and introduced himself. "You must be Claire's mother, right?" "Auntie, I am Gerald's cousin Fred." "You are so beautiful. No wonder you can give birth to Claire. Such a beautiful daughter." When Elaine heard that Fred turned out to be Gerald's cousin, the eldest son of the White family, and the son of the rich family, her eyes lit up and she said enthusiastically, "Yes, I am Claire's mother." "Are you and Claire friends?" Fred nodded and smiled. "Kind of friends, but I just met today." Elaine was full of joy, and quickly nodded and said, "Everyone quickly find a place to sit, don't stand. Mr. White, you young people, you should have more contact in the future." "Mom!" Claire exclaimed in dissatisfaction, preventing her mother from continuing. Elaine was about to say something. Claire gave her a hand to remind everyone to pay attention to the stage. At this time, Mrs. Wilson was already standing in the spotlight. She looked around with excitement before she stood in front of the microphone and smiled and said, "First of all, on behalf of the Wilson family, I welcome dear friends and partners to come to our banquet. Then, let us welcome the Vice Chairman of Emgrand Group, Ms. Doris." The spotlight moved instantaneously, hitting the beam of light on the front seat. Wearing a black evening dress, Doris completely exposed her perfect figure to everyone's eyes. Under the light, she was as dazzling as a fairy, and all the men in the field couldn't help but focus on her. Emgrand Group, Vice Chairman. Peerless beauty. Each of these identities is enough to attract everyone's attention. After Doris stood up, she just nodded to the crowd. When she saw Charlie, her eyes stayed for a while before she moved away. At this time, the old Mrs. Wilson continued to speak. "Today, I would like to thank the Emgrand Group for being able to entrust such an important project to the Wilson family. The Wilson family will definitely go all out to live up to the trust of Emgrand. Secondly, we also want to introduce to our friends an outstanding junior of our Wilson family. If it weren't for him, we would not have reached a cooperation with Emgrand. Moreover, after mutual consultation of our group, we decided to nominate him as our Wilson Group's director, is solely responsible for the cooperation with Emgrand Group." The mother-in-law Elaine said excitedly, "Oh, Claire. It's time for you to be on stage." Although Claire was ready to take the stage, she was still nervous. Charlie immediately cast an encouraging look at her. Harold looked at Claire, who was full of excitement, and couldn't help but show a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Old Mrs. Wilson also looked at the table and spoke with a smile. "Let us welcome the new director of the Wilson Group, Harold." Claire's figure instantly froze in place. She looked to the side in disbelief, but saw Harold proudly and stepped onto the stage. Charlie's eyes turned cold instantly. A good way to cross the river and demolish the bridge. The Wilson family, after using Claire, immediately abandoned her, not caring about her feelings at all. Claire's eye circles instantly turned red, and tears kept rolling in his eye sockets. Immediately afterward, she stood up and ran out of the door without looking back. For her, how happy she was when she came, how desperate she was now. Charlie watched her leave, his face even colder. "Bullying my wife? Are you looking for death?" At this time, Harold stood on the stage and said proudly, "Thank you for the trust of the company. I will definitely work hard to be a director. I will definitely complete the project given to us by Emgrand Group." Mrs. Wilson nodded in satisfaction, took the words, and said, "There is one more important thing about this banquet, that is, we are fortunate to have Mr. Wade, the new chairman of the Emgrand Group. Please use the warmest applause. Welcome to Chairman Wade." There was thunderous applause from the audience. All the guests tonight are rushing to the new chairman of Emgrand Group. Everyone is waiting to see his style. Everyone is watching privately, just want to see who will stand up at this moment. Someone even said, I suspect that the mysterious chairman of the Emgrand Group is the same person as the super goddess who made a lot of noise at Rare Earth on the internet. I also think it's very possible. That superhero's back looks strange, it shouldn't be in the Aurus Hill Circle. God! If you say that, isn't the chairman of Emgrand Group the most powerful super-rich in Aurus Hill? I look forward to seeing him in his true colors. In this fierce applause, under the eager attention of countless people, Charlie suddenly, with cold his face and slowly stood up.